Okay, let's have a little look through some of the answers to these questions. So, recap number one, what connotations do daffodils have? Now, as you probably remember from yesterday, there are lots of possible answers that you could have put for this question. You could say that they have connotations of spring, they have connotations of happiness and joy, reflection, rebirth, renewal, hope, or any of the other ones you can remember from yesterday. Okay, so well done if you got any of those ones right. And you can add in as many as you can remember into that box. So well done. Recap number two. What are the two key themes of Daffodils, the poem? Family, memories, daffodils, nature, or power. Now, yesterday we looked at the theme of memories and the theme of nature. So those are the two correct answers in that box. Well done. Okay, recap number three. What inspired Wordsworth to write this poem? A holiday with his wife, a walk with his sister, his favourite book, or a dream he had. Well done if you remembered it was a walk with his sister. We talked about the fact that he read her, or used some of her diary from the day when they went for a walk as inspiration for his poem. Number four, what do we call paragraphs in poems? Is it paragraphs, stanzas, articles, or chunks? It is stanzas. Well done if you remember that. When we're talking about paragraphs in poems, we call them stanzas. Okay. Challenge, recap one. The term used to describe a perfect place is utopia. Well done if you remembered that. So a perfect place is called a utopia. And in which stanza, actually, hopefully quite a lot of us had a go at this one because I think we'd be able to answer it. In which stanza does the speaker say he's feeling pensive? Was it the first, second, third, or fourth? Well done, it is the fourth. It is the fourth stanza that he is feeling pensive. Well done. Right, let's get back to our lesson. Well done for doing those recaps. If you got some of them wrong, that's absolutely fine. Hopefully going through that just then has made you a little bit clearer on some of the things we learned yesterday. Okay, we're going to do a quick look, say, cover, write check for some new vocabulary today. I don't expect it to take you that long because I think you might have heard of some of this vocabulary before, but it's just really useful for you to relearn it for today's lesson and have it really clearly in your minds, okay? So the first word is personification, which means giving something non-human human characteristics. Extended metaphor, a metaphor that is developed into greater detail, usually lasts for more than one sentence. So the metaphor goes on for a bit longer than just the one line. Host, a group or a crowd. Now, a host can mean a lot of other things as well. So sort of like a host of a party or when talking about insects. But in this sense, in the poem, host refers to a group or a crowd, okay? And joyous and joyful meaning happy. All right, so I want you to all look, say, cover, write, check those words. A challenge word for anyone who wants to try it, but especially those four groups who usually do the challenges. Iambic tetrameter. You might have heard of iambic pentameter before when we were looking at Shakespeare, but iambic tetrameter is slightly different. It is used to describe a line of poetry with 4 beats of one unstressed syllable, followed by one stressed syllable. It sounds like da-da, 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 okay? That is your challenge word. These are the words I want you to look, say, cover, write, check. I would spend about 5 minutes doing that, so you need to pause the video, look, say, cover, write, check this vocabulary and the challenge word if you're in those groups. 5 minutes, pause the video, off you go. Okay, if I've started talking and you haven't finished doing that and you haven't spent 5 minutes on it, you need to make sure you've paused the video, okay? Because I'm going to now move on to the next section of the lesson. So hopefully those words have started to make a little bit more sense and you've got quite a strong understanding of what they mean. Okay. I'm going to read the poem to you again, and then we're going to start looking at some of the language that Wordsworth uses to create a certain tone, okay? So the same as yesterday, I'd like you to read along with me. If you've got the copy of the poem in front of you, read along with your pen or pencil. If you're using it on the screen, follow along with your finger, okay? Right. I wandered lonely as a cloud that floats on high o'er vales and hills, when all at once I saw a crowd, a host of golden daffodils, beside the lake beneath the trees, fluttering and dancing in the breeze. Continuous as the stars that shine and twinkle on the Milky Way, they stretched in never-ending line along the margin of a bay. 10,000 saw I at a glance, tossing their heads in sprightly dance. The waves beside them danced, but they outdid the sparkling waves in glee. A poet could not but be gay in such jocund company. I gazed and gazed, but little thought what wealth the show to me had brought. For oft, when on my couch I lie in vacant or in pensive mood, they flash upon that inward eye, which is the bliss of solitude. And then my heart with pleasure fills and dances with the daffodils. Okay, so like I said yesterday, the poet deliberately created or deliberately used language in this poem to make the reader feel a certain way. So he's deliberately created a feeling or tone. So when we talk about the feeling or the way the reader feels, we can call that the tone throughout this poem, okay? And we're going to have a little look and see how he's done that. Okay, so we're going to start by looking at the language that is used. On the screen here are 4 quotations from the poem. Because writers deliberately use language to create a certain effect on the reader, and they use language techniques and methods to do this. Over here are 4 language techniques. What I want you to do is have a go at matching up the quotation to the language technique. Now you can number them 1 to 4, if that makes it easier for you, and just jot them down so you've got an idea in your notebook. But I want you to match up the quotations over here with the language technique over here, okay? You need to pause the video for a few minutes just as you match those the quotations to the techniques up, all right? Off you go. Just pause the video until you finish doing that. Okay, if I'm talking and you've not finished, just make sure you've paused the video. I'm gonna match them up for you now so you can see which language techniques match to which quotation. Okay, so I wandered lonely as a cloud is a simile because of the word as. Remember, in similes, you write as or like to compare it to something, okay? A host of golden daffodils beside the lake beneath the trees, fluttering and dancing in the breeze is personification or a metaphor, okay? So I don't mind which one of those techniques you talk about when talking about that quotation, but here we can see the daffodils are dancing, they're called like a group, they're fluttering, so they are given human qualities there because they are dancing, but they are also a metaphor because they are being described as something else, okay? Tossing their heads in sprightly dance is an example of an extended metaphor because the poet has not just talked about the daffodils as being able to dance in one line, they have continued that on throughout the poem, so we can call it an extended metaphor. It's an extended example of this personification and this metaphor from the first stanza. And the final one, I gazed and gazed, but little thought, is of course repetition because gazed is repeated twice, okay? He's emphasizing the fact that the speaker is gazing, is looking by using repetition. Okay, now we've matched up the quotations with the techniques. We're going to talk about how that technique can help create a joyful tone. Because remember we've said that this poem, go back all the way through these, this poem has quite a happy tone, it's joyful. We're linking it to the idea of daffodils, aren't we? And they're a happy flower, they have that joyful connotation. So, our question is, how does the writer create a joyful tone? I'm going to use the quotation, I wandered lonely as a cloud, okay? which is a simile. The noun cloud also has connotations of daydreaming and dreams. Well done if you had a go at trying to work that out yesterday. I always think that you see that coming about in things like comics or in cartoons. They often have the clouds coming out of the character's mind with their daydream or their dream in it. So the noun cloud has connotations of daydreaming or dreams. And I have written a little example of how you can turn this quotation and this idea of a connotation into an answer to this question, okay? So read along with me now. The simile, I wandered lonely as a cloud, helps to create a joyful tone because cloud has connotations of dreams, which are closely linked to happiness and joy. Perhaps the poet is expressing what a joyous occasion the walk was, and that he now thinks of it as if it were a dream. Okay? Because remember, we talked about the poem, it's him remembering the past as well, him looking back. I've added a little bit into this answer at the bottom as well. So just listen whilst I read this through. If you're in those challenge groups, this might be more the sort of answer I'd be looking for. Through the use of the simile, I wandered lonely as a cloud, Wordsworth immediately presents the scene as a utopia, with cloud having, well, there should be, hang on, sorry about that, with cloud having connotations of dreams, suggesting the speaker feels at peace and carefree, creating a tranquil and joyful tone. Okay, so those are two answers to that question. They're not quite what, how, why paragraph level answers, but they are an answer to that question using the quotation, talking about the technique, and then talking about connotations. All right, so in a moment, I'm going to ask you to do that for one of the other quotations we've picked out, but we're going to talk through them just a little bit to give you some ideas to start with. Okay? And remember, you can always come back to these pages when you are doing the work just by replaying the video. Okay, so we've talked about how I wandered lonely as a cloud can help to create that joyful tone. Let's have a look at this one, tossing their heads in sprightly dance. Now we can talk about it being the extended metaphor, the continued description of the daffodils as being able to dance, being like people. But also we can have a look at this word here, sprightly. Yesterday, we looked at what that word meant. So when you are answering your question, you can talk about the fact that the dance is described as sprightly and what the significance of that means and how that also makes it joyous or how it makes it a happy tone. Okay? Also with this quotation, you can talk about the personification, the fact that dancing is described or is thought of as quite a exciting or energetic movement, often associated with happiness and joy. Okay, so you can pick out individual words, just like I picked out cloud in this quotation, in any of these quotations. Okay, so it's your turn now. The video is going to stop in a moment and you're going to have a go at explaining one of the other quotations from this page in answer to the question. Now the question will be in the Google stream, so please, in the Google form, so please don't worry about remembering it. But you're going to choose one of these quotations or another one if you want to push yourself. But you can choose one of these quotations and explain how the writer has chosen words, has used language to help create that joyful and happy tone. Okay? I know that this is quite difficult, but I really want you to have a go. I want you to have a go at using the quotation, having a go at using the technique that we've looked at already. There'll be an explanation in the question, but that is going to be your task, okay? There'll be another video after that, moving on, and we're going to look at structure. But for now, I want you to have a go at answering this question: how does the writer create a joyful tone using one of the other quotations, okay? Off you go.